Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Arise News. And it's time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. But join us in the studio Sundays, who are the Group News Editor, Leadership Newspaper. Thank you so much. Good morning, and it's good to have you.
Good morning.
But let's get started with, of course, the first one here, and take a look at the this day of record. The biggest headline there is screaming at me: Presidency, Shettima not fighting Tinubu over Fubara's suspension rather. Let's take a look at some of the writers. Says President acted in good faith by suspending Rivers governor. ADC asked Tinubu to recall Fubara. Shettima depart Abuja for Sao Tome today. Let's take a look at the top left mass now. NNPC hint at selling Nigeria's refineries. Says rehabilitation becoming complex. And take a look at the right that there reviews cost of production now $25 to $30 per barrel. More stock market is listing in 2028. Let's take a look at another one. Akwoti Uduahan writes Senate to resume July 15 appeals contempt conviction. And that's, of course, you have it there. CSO's Shehu Sani backs federal government rejection of Trump's Venezuelan prisoners deal. All set for Lagos local government elections today. So we'll look out for massive participation by our president. Well, Tinubu backs Afrima 2025, federal government inaugurate LOC. But back to our major headline there, of course, which talk about the fact that, there have been some comment and backlash concerning the comment made by the president, vice president, rather, Shettima, that there seems to be some fighting between the office of the vice president and, of course, the president. And there've been some defense already. The president is putting up a defense and say, look, the vice president is not fighting the president over Fubara suspension. But if you look at that comment, some people have asked, well, why did the vice president even made that comment in the first place if he knew that he was going to do a lot of work to defend himself?
Yeah, what is happening in the presidency, I think, is being caused by the feed columnists. They actually assume, okay, right, this is what the vice president is saying, and this is what the president is saying. If you look at what has been happening, it's actually an issue that I think Nigerians should not take it very seriously. It's a political issue. If the president suspend a governor, and it was not actually the governor alone he suspended. He suspended the State House of Assembly, right, and any elected official apart from the judiciary. So let's look at the merit of it. What does the Constitution say concerning issue or the powers of the president? Does the president have the power to suspend an elected governor or elected member of the State House of Assembly? But some people can also argue that if there could be crisis, the president can act in that manner in order to save the state from, from such a crisis. But of course, the vice president, have his own right to make a comment concerning the crisis in Rivers State, but whether he can fight the president is something that the feed columnists need to.
Although the presidency is also, he's actually saying that comment wasn't, directly on the issue of Rivers State. It was actually in reference to what happened when, he was the governor. When the vice president was the governor. You remember during Jonathan, the former, president. And he said, look, if not for so and so, I would have been removed, and the comment, maybe it's the use of language, because the removal and suspension, some say the president does not have the constitutional power to remove a sitting governor elected,
Yeah. So you
by
see,
law. I
yeah.
mean, is backed up by law.
Yeah.
So suspension, removal. I think that is where the confusion is.
Well, whether you've been suspended, it's actually a removal because you don't have the constitutional mandate to carry out your duties as elected. And so I think the vice president shouldn't have made such a comment. Yes,
I think that is where the fire is coming from. So perhaps, he's doing a lot of work now to defend himself in that manner. But we hope that, of course, that clarification suffices. But let's look at the second, headline there, of course, which, if we can have it, put it there. And if you look at this, NNPC hints at selling Nigeria's refineries, says rehabilitation becoming complex. And this, of course, perhaps it's coming as a follow-up to what Dangote said. Aliko Dangote, the president of a Dangote refinery, petrochemicals and refineries, said that maybe Nigerian refineries may not work again because after looking at what has been spent, what was spent on Dangote's refineries was not more than 20 billion US dollars, and that's what is in the public space. Yeah. But in terms of turnaround maintenance for the nation's own refineries, it was spent almost, according to report, over 80 billion going to almost over 200 billion US dollars. So that alone could build about 5 refineries.
Yeah, I think the government need to sell off these refineries because when it comes to business, I don't think government have a business running a business. All they need to do is to provide the enabling environment for these businesses to thrive. I remember last year I was coming back from New York, and luckily I boarded the same plane with one of the experts that are working on that Port Harcourt refinery, and so we get talking, and I got to have some insight concerning the turnaround maintenance over there. And I'm telling you, the best thing for the government to do is to hand over these refineries to the private sector. We can't maintain them as a government because there is a deep misappropriations that have been going on the nation's refinery, because people feel that, okay, these are government institutions, and they are not actually private. The supervision is not done the way it should be done. Everyone working there will always find a way of making money for himself rather than ensuring that things work for the betterment of the common man. So I think they should sell these refineries and ensure that they work. If the refineries are working, Nigerians don't need to be paying close to 900 naira per liter.
Because I understand, yes, we do understand that, okay, government does not have, business doing business. But there are some businesses that you cannot entirely, ask government to hands off. For instance, in the business of oil, you still have, need some level of government control to ensure, competition. And now, if we are talking about selling the refineries, it means that Nigeria may go out of, producing, and then that may create a kind of monopoly, because some people are beginning to talk about, remember when there was a lot of backlash when a refinery came on stream, and it was a lot of, back and forth about who should sell, and then the arrangement came where the local players will have to be given some percentage and all of that. There's so much. So can we really say government does not have business doing some, especially in some critical sector like oil and gas, really?
See, in the previous administration, in the last 8 years of the Buhari's administration, these refineries did not work for a single day. And looking at the years, that these refineries have taken without working. It has,
And look at the amount of money
some
that's spent.
equipments have become dilapidated. So if you are still spending money on turnaround, I'm telling you, you will not get the needed result. So all you need to do now is to ensure that
build a new one,
you have, yes, it's either you build a new one. I'm telling you, the money they are using for this turnaround maintenance, they can build new refineries. You don't need gigantic buildings for oil refineries. Yes,
Right.
yes, because even these our guys that they have been bombing in the Niger Delta, they are refining fuel. How are they doing it? You know, can't you think of a better way of bringing these people together and ensure that the fuel they are refining, you know, is up to the standards for
Right.
consumption?
Right.
And so if you keep spending money on turnaround and you are not getting the result, then, you know, the country will still continue to suffer. The citizens will still continue to suffer because we want the country to work. And the money that is being spent in this maintenance of these refineries, honestly, is mind-boggling. Because the one that they disclose to us is the one we know.
Well, we hope the government will be transparent enough if it should go ahead eventually, you know, to start to set it up for sale. But we hope that the government will be transparent. But let's look at other frontline pages now and take a look at the Punch is next. Food alert. The screaming headline there says food alert, panic in 20 states as resident flood alert rather. I beg your pardon. Flood alert. Panic in 20 states as residents vacate high-risk areas. Let's take a look at some of the riders. Government allay fears. Resident demand better response. Plans. Environmentalists fought state over poor flood preparations. Take a look at some of the other headline there. NNPC Mouse refineries sailed after Dangote's verdict. Jitters in Osun, APC, PDP over Adeleke's defection plan. Or perhaps more defection loading there. Let's take a look at this one. Bauchi Governor Sanwo-Olu to speak at Jakonde lecture July 23. Tinubu backs Afrima 2025 as federal government raises committee. Well, I think those are some of the headline now. But back to our conversation now. Let's take a look at that flood alert because there's panic in about 20 states according to this story. And the question, of course, is, you know, when you look at the looming disaster, I mean, we've seen some flood issue crisis in Niger State, and this underscore concern about climate change adaptation and government preparations. Because while we're alerting our citizens, there has to be, on the other side, we have to also balance that, you know, conversation with preparations as well. But look at these particularly. Why does Nigeria remain vulnerable to predictable seasonal flooding? And what does the recurring crisis reveal about national disaster preparedness and environmental policy policy enforcement? Because it seems that every year we come, we raise alarm, but our preparation is poor.
Yeah. One of the problem is our inability to build dams around the northeastern area of the country that will take water from the Lagbo Dam from the Cameroonian territory. Right. Because every year the Cameroonian authority release water from this dam, and so if they release the water, we don't have dams that can absorb that water. I'm telling you, the states that are prone to this flood, there are over 30. Yes, it's only about 3 or 2 states that may not be affected with flood if this Cameroonian authority release that water from that dam. And over the years, government have been saying that they are building dams around the northeastern area to absorb water from this Lago Dam. But I don't know how far the project have gone because it keeps occurring every year. Once the water is released, then we suffer flooding in most of our states. And you see, this is also increasing the rate of poverty because year in, year out, a peasant farmer will build his house, you know, or do his businesses, farm his crops and all that. And at the end of the day, water will come and wash them away. Not only the food, not only the infrastructure, but people are being killed, you know,
right,
as a result of this flood. So I think the government needs to do more rather than you know, issuing alerts and all that. We need to ensure that we build this dam around the Lago area to protect our territory from flooding.
We need to really do more. Let's take a look at what the Guardian is saying. Hurdles before APC. Coalition as Nigerians weigh options. If you take a look at the picture story, there seems to be some heavyweight there. Well, Obi is in the picture. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is in the picture. David Mark is in the picture with the new coalition, our team. And of course, the president is also, you know, having his own background, politicking as well, what you may call background game, well, or lobbying, if you prefer. But because the political discourse now seems to be shifting towards alternative, and of course with coalition talks and third force ambitions gaining momentum, it looks like 2027 is going to be interesting. Sunday.
Yeah, you know, the coalition.
2027.
Yes.
It's really going to be interesting.
Yes, it's going to be very, very interesting. If you look at the way the coalition have been moving, some of them actually move to SDP. Without knowing that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu became senator under the SDP, so he still have his own supporters there. And from there, they moved to ADC. Still, the president still have his own supporters there. That's why you can see crises here and there, you know, having people going to court to make sure that David Mark and Aribeshola are not longer leaders of the party, that they are alleging that they hijack the party. So the coalition, I think they are actually confused on the way to go about removing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the 2027 elections, because to work against someone who have been in politics for many years, I think is very difficult. Some of them have worked with him, like Atiku actually run for the presidency under a platform Tinubu was having control over. And I think they have been friends and all that. And so even David Mark, you don't know whether he's, okay, he has resigned from the PDP, now joining coalition.
ADC.
Yes, he have,
EDC,
yes,
actually.
Yes, he resigned from PDP, joining
ADC,
as their interim national chairman. Peter Obi, the Labour Party is divided, and so some are threatening to suspend him. Some are saying, no, you can't suspend him because he's still a member of our party, but he's still part of the coalition. So these are things that will make the 2027 general election
Hopes are high, really. Hopes are high, and we hope that perhaps they will truly serve as alternative to APC and PDP.
Honestly, I like the coalition. I like the coalition because it's putting the present government on their toes. So I just believe that the masses will benefit from now to 2027, because when you have an opposition that is very strong, you know, checkmating the activities of the government, then the masses should enjoy.
Well, let's quickly look at this particular one, leadership weekend, and then of course we'll run quickly just few comments. The federal government spent 4.3 million naira daily to feed 3,823 inmates on death row. And if you put that together in a month, and in a year, that's running into billions of naira.
Yeah.
Your comment, please.
These are people who the governors have refused, you know, to execute them, because they are actually inmates who are on death row. The governors have not been signing death warrant. And so the government is now spending over 1.5 billion in a year to feed people who are not supposed to be fed. So I think something needs to be done because
I think the process of signing, putting
yeah.
pen to paper by the governors, really, perhaps maybe is the process, which of course,
I don't think that once somebody have been sentenced to death, it is now left for the governor to sign for such an execution to take place. But most of the governors, they are not doing that. And I don't know why they are not doing that.
let's quickly take some foreign newspaper, and let's take Daily Mail. Daily Mail is next, smashing the gang's latest. Starmer's migrant plan set to be sunk before it launch. Well, there seems to be some perhaps a lot of issues within the Labour Party, the leading party or ruling party in the UK, with some of his policies from tax and some other spending bills and all of that. There seems to be a lot that they have to address in the coming days.
Yes, just like United States President Donald Trump is planning to send some of the illegal migrants to some African countries, the UK, they are planning to do same and send these illegal migrants to Uganda. But even within their political party, they are having a lot of issues, because I remember some of the Labour leaders have voted against the Deputy Prime Minister, stating that she have increased taxes, and these have sent a lot of burdens to families. So the Labour Party is facing a very tough time, and they need to work more harder to ensure that they still maintain their position.
Well, I think a similar story as to wrap up now. This one from Daily Express, and it says, experts say reckless choices by Reeves risk plunging UK into recession, and workers will suffer a tax time bomb. That's a big one there, and it seems to be. Let's take a look at The Guardian. Union target reign as Labour row grows. That's on the front page of The Guardian there. I think that's what we have there. But let's perhaps wrap up with this. This one says, the Daily Telegraph, now families to pay more for water in heat waves. The Daily Telegraph has that story. The heat wave really is another issue, of course, which a lot of people are paying more water. But I mean, Nigeria is blessed and Africa is blessed. We've never had cause to have a kind of this crisis.
Yes.
Would you want to comment that before wrap up?
The wave heat, even though it will send more burden to families, but people who are having businesses like ice cream businesses, beach businesses, of course their revenue are increasing.
Surge.
Yes, because a lot of people are moving into the beaches and taking ice cream, so a lot of recreation centers, are recording a high number of patronage. And so even though the government in the UK are planning to give a kind of subsidy about 7.5 million euro for families to be able to afford some of the machine that will help them to pump in cool air, or depending on the weather, so that it will help them maintain. But the argument is that families still need to pay more bills on electricity and all that, just to make those equipment function.
A good place to live in. Thank you so much for your time on Daybreak. Sunday Isua is head of news editor at Leadership. Thank you so much for your time on Daybreak. And that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. It's a goodbye for me, and please keep it here on Arise News. I am Frank Omalape.